The first point that chocolate causes acne is a long-standing misconception. Research indicates that acne breakouts are correlated not with chocolate itself, but with overconsumption, particularly of sweet and high-fat chocolate. Consuming dark chocolate with a high percentage of cocoa in moderation does not negatively impact skin condition. Second point, it's a common misconception that reading in low-light conditions harms eyesight. While it's true that eyes experience fatigue and strain, there's no evidence of long-term damage. Vision problems are primarily attributed to genetic factors, aging, and sustained near-work eye strain. The third point, being outdoors in freezing temperatures with wet hair is commonly believed to cause a cold. In reality, the common cold is a viral infection, not a consequence of cold weather. While wet hair can contribute to hypothermia, a cold will not develop without a virus. The increased prevalence of viruses during winter has perpetuated this misconception. Fourth fact, the common advice to consume 8 glasses of water daily isn't a universally applicable guideline. Individual water needs are influenced by factors such as body weight, climate, activity level, and diet. A substantial amount of daily fluid intake is derived from food, including tea and soups. Thirst and urine color are more reliable indicators of adequate hydration than simply counting glasses of water. The fifth point, the widespread belief that sugar consumption leads to hyperactivity in children is false. This myth has been debunked by numerous scientific studies. Parents who are aware that their child has consumed sweets tend to notice increased activity more readily. Therefore, the effect is due to parental expectations, not the sugar itself. Placebo studies further confirm that hyperactivity in such cases is a result of suggestion. Point 6. The conventional understanding is that humans have 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. The truth, however, is that we possess many more than 5 senses. We perceive balance, temperature, body position, internal pain, and oxygen levels. Scientific knowledge has established this, yet the simplified school model remains prevalent. Fact number 7. The bluish appearance of veins is not due to the color of the blood itself, which remains red, but rather to the darker shade of venous blood compared to arterial blood. The blue hue is an optical illusion caused by the skin's filtering of light and the scattering of short wavelengths. Biology plays no role in this phenomenon. Fact number 8. The assertion of a direct causal link between sugar and diabetes is incorrect. Type 2 diabetes results from a combination of factors: genetic predisposition, overweight, and insulin resistance. An excess of sugar in the diet may contribute to obesity, but it is not solely responsible for the development of diabetes. Myth number 9. Shaving makes hair grow back thicker and tougher. This is incorrect. When hair is shaved, it loses its natural point at the tip, giving the impression of increased thickness. In reality, hair thickness and density are genetically determined and influenced by hormones. A razor cannot change the hair follicle structure. Point number 10. A widespread but risky piece of advice suggests milk aids in poisoning treatment. In reality, milk can enhance the absorption of some toxins, particularly fat-soluble ones. In cases of poisoning, immediate action should include stomach pumping and contacting a doctor, not drinking milk with bread. Fact number 11. The belief that fingernails and hair continue to grow after death is inaccurate. What occurs is a dehydration of the skin, resulting in a more visible portion of the nail bed and hair shafts. This visual effect simulates growth. True growth, however, requires living cells and energy. Point 12. The misconception that antibiotics treat viral infections, such as colds and the flu, is widespread and harmful. Antibiotics are effective only against bacteria. Viruses are immune to their effects. Unnecessary antibiotic use fosters bacterial resistance and damages the microbiome. 13th fact. Sleeping 8 hours is not a mandatory rule for everyone.
6 hours are enough for some, while others require more than 9. Factors such as sleep phases, genetics, and age influence sleep duration and quality. The key is to feel rested upon waking, not to adhere to a generalized standard.
Point 14. The widespread belief that the human brain functions at only 10% is incorrect. Neuroimaging studies reveal activity across many brain areas, even at rest. Although we don't use the whole brain at once, almost all its parts are activated during a day. The 15th point. The claim that gluten is harmful to all is false. Gluten poses a real threat only to those with celiac disease or gluten intolerance. Most people easily digest wheat, rye, and barley. The trend towards gluten-free products is largely a marketing phenomenon, not a medical requirement. 16th point. It is commonly thought that omitting breakfast leads to a slower metabolism. The truth is that metabolic rate is regulated by a complex interplay of factors, and skipping a single breakfast will not make a significant difference. Eating in the morning is beneficial for energy and focus, but it doesn't initiate bodily functions. 17th fact. Alcohol's warming effect is an illusion. Ethyl alcohol causes vasodilation, leading to increased blood flow to the skin and a sensation of warmth. This, however, is accompanied by a faster rate of heat loss from the body. In cold weather, this poses a significant risk. A drunk person feels warm, but their body is cooling down. 18th fact. The application of vinegar to reduce fever is both obsolete and potentially hazardous. Vinegar compresses may irritate the skin, while the inhalation of vinegar vapors can lead to poisoning, particularly in children. The cooling effect is temporary. Reliable antipyretic medications are a preferable method for reducing fever. Fact number 19. A widely held belief, prevalent since the early 2010s, suggests that using a mobile phone during a thunderstorm is unsafe. This is incorrect. A mobile phone does not attract lightning. The actual danger comes from elevated structures, open areas, and metallic items. The use of electronics does not increase the likelihood of being struck by lightning. Fact number 20. A common belief, though inaccurate, is that eating carrots enhances eyesight. While vitamin A, present in carrots, is essential for maintaining healthy eyes, an overabundance does not improve visual acuity. This myth's origin lies in British propaganda from the period of the Second World War. The 21st fact. Picking up food that has fallen on the floor within 5 seconds doesn't make it safe to consume. Bacterial contamination occurs almost immediately, particularly if the surface is unclean. The so-called 5-second rule is a fallacy without scientific support. The risk is determined by the location of the fall, not the duration of contact with the floor. Fact number 22. Rapid intuition is not always accurate. It is usually an automatic response based on prior experience. Although it can be beneficial, it often results in errors and prejudices. In difficult situations, intuition can be confusing, particularly when information is scarce. 23rd fact. The claim that sugar is addictive, like narcotics, is a bold statement, but inaccurate. While the pleasant taste and rapid energy boost can create a habit, sugar doesn't induce the same physical dependence as drugs. The dependence is primarily psychological. 24th fact. Being close to a screen will not automatically damage your vision. Modern screens are designed with eye safety in mind, representing an improvement over older technologies. The duration of screen time and eye strain are more significant factors than the distance from the screen. Regular breaks, frequent blinking, and adequate lighting are crucial. Close proximity to the screen is not inherently harmful. 25th fact. The idea of being watched through your television is worrying. Nevertheless, the majority of televisions lack built-in cameras. The exception is smart TVs with video conferencing capabilities. Gaining access requires a hacker to breach your network security, a process demanding considerable expertise. 26th point.
Becoming ill due to an air conditioner is only possible if it is not properly serviced. The cold air itself does not cause illness. The real danger comes from bacteria and mold accumulating in dirty filters. Regular cleaning and a moderate temperature setting make the air conditioner safe and effective in reducing dust. 27th fact. A common misconception is that frequent shaving leads to faster hair growth. This is a visual illusion. The cut end of the hair appears thicker, particularly when the hair grows perpendicular to the skin. Nevertheless, neither the rate of growth nor the hair density is affected by shaving. Hair follicles receive no signals to increase their growth rate. 28th fact. The popular misconception that humans utilize only one brain hemisphere is untrue. This is a myth propagated within pop psychology. Scientific findings in neurophysiology indicate the close collaboration of both brain hemispheres in the performance of most tasks. The categorization of individuals as left-brained or right-brained is a marketing technique without scientific validation. The 29th point. It is a false belief that hair and nails grow after death. The truth is that all biological processes stop after death. The appearance of growth is caused by skin dehydration. As the skin dries and shrinks, it pulls back, revealing more of the hair and nail shafts. This is an optical illusion, not real growth. 30th fact. A common yet unsubstantiated belief is that eating sunflower seeds can lead to appendicitis. Appendicitis is an inflammation resulting from infection or obstruction, not a particular type of food. The entry of seed husks into the appendix is theoretically possible, but it is exceptionally rare. 31st fact. Reading on a mobile phone is more detrimental to eyesight than reading books. The crucial aspect is not the medium itself, but rather reading habits, distance from the eyes, lighting conditions, and reading duration. Electronic displays are not inherently more harmful than paper, provided that proper eye hygiene is maintained and reading sessions are not excessively long without breaks. 32nd fact. Excessive coffee consumption can lead to dehydration. However, moderate caffeine intake, 2 or 3 cups daily, does not cause significant dehydration. It is also important to consider that coffee contains water, partially compensating for fluid loss. 33rd fact. Difficulties with weight loss are not directly caused by carbohydrates. The main issue is excessive food consumption and insufficient physical activity. Whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, which contain carbohydrates, contribute to weight management. The complete rejection of carbohydrates is an oversimplified and ineffective approach. 34th point. The common belief that lemons kill viruses is incorrect. Vitamin C is crucial for a strong immune system, yet it cannot independently eliminate viruses. Employing lemon tea or lemon juice as an antiseptic is unproductive. They only provide minimal symptom relief. 35th point. It's a widespread belief that eating before bed will automatically cause weight gain. In reality, the total daily calorie intake is the determining factor, not the time of day you eat. Weight gain occurs only when consumed calories surpass expended calories. Eating after 8 p.m. doesn't automatically turn into fat if you maintain an active lifestyle and consume a reasonable number of calories. 36th fact. Naturally occurring substances are often associated with health benefits. However, this is not always the case. Mercury, cyanide, and mold are examples of naturally occurring substances that are harmful. Some synthetic substances are safer than their natural equivalents. Dosage, application context, and safety testing are more important than origin. Natural does not equal beneficial. 37th fact. When ill, temperature control is necessary. A fever is a natural defense mechanism of the body, aiding in the fight against viruses. Temperature reduction is only recommended with significant discomfort or high readings, above 38.5 degrees. 38th point. During sleepwalking, it's advisable to avoid startling the individual awake. A cautious approach to waking them is preferable. While a sudden awakening may startle the sleepwalker, it is unlikely to cause physical injury. The greater danger lies in allowing them to fall or collide with an object. The focus should be on ensuring their safety, not on the potential for awakening them. 39th fact. It's a widespread belief that the amount of sweat is directly related to the amount of fat burned. This is incorrect. Sweating is simply the body's way of regulating its temperature. Significant sweating in a sauna, for example, doesn't lead to significant calorie loss. Effective weight loss results from physical activity and proper nutrition, not from sweating. 41st fact. Raw vegetables are not always superior to cooked ones in terms of health benefits. Heat processing can enhance the bioavailability of some nutrients, for instance, lycopene in tomatoes. While boiling reduces the vitamin content, it simultaneously activates other beneficial elements. The optimal approach involves a diverse range of cooking methods, rather than adhering solely to a raw food diet. Statement 41. The belief that muscles transform into fat after just one gym visit is a myth. This is inaccurate. Muscle tissue and adipose tissue are distinct biological structures. One cannot convert into the other. When training stops, muscle volume diminishes, and with a continued high-calorie diet, fat volume increases. This is not a conversion, but a substitution. Statement 42. Eye exercises can improve vision. However, this does not extend to cases of nearsightedness and farsightedness. This type of exercise helps relieve strain, but does not alter the length of the eyeball or the shape of the lens. This is determined by the anatomical structure of the eye. Glasses and lenses serve to correct vision, not to cure it. 43rd fact. A phone near the pillow causing brain tumors is a myth. Scientific studies have not established a conclusive link between mobile phone radiation and cancer. The radiation emitted is too weak to harm cells. Prioritizing sufficient sleep is crucial. 44th point. Getting very cold can make you more likely to catch the flu. But cold weather itself doesn't cause the flu. Viruses do. Being cold weakens your immune system, making you more vulnerable to infection. But it doesn't directly trigger the illness. Whether you get sick depends on contact with someone who has the flu and your overall health. Point 45. The rupture of a blood vessel in the eye is commonly misconstrued as an indicator of elevated blood pressure. However, it is typically caused by stress, fatigue, or a quick movement. It's crucial to understand that intraocular pressure and systemic blood pressure are distinct and not always correlated. Despite its alarming appearance, this usually heals without complications. 46th fact. It's a widespread misconception that graying hair results from fright or significant stress overnight. This is a visually striking but false notion. Hair color alteration is not instantaneous. Hair pigment is lost gradually. Stress may hasten this process, but not in 24 hours. Already grown hair remains unchanged. 47th fact. Long hair doesn't grow faster simply because it's not cut. Hair growth rate is determined by the hair follicles, not the hair's length. Split ends might give the impression of slower growth, but how often you get a haircut doesn't change how fast your hair grows. Your health, diet, and hormones are what affect hair growth speed. 48th fact. Ingesting significant quantities of vitamin C does not ensure protection against disease. Large doses will not prevent infection, only possibly reducing the length of a common cold. The body eliminates excess vitamin C through urine, and excessive intake may lead to stomach upset and diarrhea. Increased dosage doesn't automatically equate to improved outcome. Fact number 49. Early speech is not always indicative of high intelligence in children. The rate of speech development is highly individual, and a delayed onset of speech doesn't necessarily signal any developmental issues. There are instances where highly successful individuals only began speaking around the age of 3. What matters most is not the date of the first word, but the overall interaction, comprehension, and consistent expansion of vocabulary. Number 50. It is often claimed that using weights during exercise leads to greater fat burning. However, in practice, the increase in fat burning is negligible. Using weights increases stress on the joints and the risk of injury, while not significantly impacting calorie burn. Consistent training at the right intensity with adequate recovery is a more efficient approach. Fact number 51. It's a misconception that sunscreen is needed only during the summer months. Ultraviolet radiation affects the skin throughout the entire year. This effect is especially pronounced on snow, in the mountains, and even on overcast days. Therefore, daily application of sunscreen is crucial for preventing skin cancer and premature aging, and not merely a summer precaution. Number 52. The cracking of ice indicates its imminent failure. Ice can crack even when it's sufficiently thick. This is a natural acoustic phenomenon resulting from expansion and internal stress. The sound itself isn't dangerous. The danger comes from the ice's structure, underwater currents, and unseen weak points. A rumbling sound is not a verdict, but a cautionary signal. Item 53. Lack of food intake before sleep can lead to poor sleep quality. Slight hunger does not negatively affect sleep, unlike overeating. Heavy meals, in particular, can cause heartburn, increase body temperature, and make it difficult to fall asleep. It is recommended to have dinner 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, no later. Number 54. The feeling that hair gets used to a shampoo and it stops working is a common misconception. This sensation is actually caused by changes in the scalp, weather, diet, or hormones. The shampoo's effectiveness doesn't diminish. Switching shampoos is only recommended if irritation, dryness, or other problems occur. 55th fact. The claim that fizzy lemonades burst stomachs is untrue. Carbonation leads to bloating and discomfort, but doesn't damage organs. The stomach is flexible enough to accommodate gas. Explosion is figurative language, not a medical description. Point 56. The belief that creative individuals are inherently chaotic is inaccurate. Messiness does not equal brilliance. A large number of creative people are organized, precise, and adhere to a rigid timetable. While chaos can be a source of inspiration, it is not a prerequisite for talent. It's a stereotype rather than a consistent pattern. Point 57. A high fever in an infant is not necessarily indicative of teething. Teething may cause some mild discomfort, but a high temperature signals an infection. The timing of these two events often overlaps, causing parental confusion. Any elevated temperature warrants serious consideration. Item number 58. In the event of a broken mercury thermometer, it is essential to gather all the mercury beads. The primary hazard is not the liquid mercury, but rather its vapor, particularly in spaces with inadequate ventilation. The use of a vacuum cleaner or broom is strictly forbidden. Proper ventilation, a respirator mask, sulfur powder, or professional waste disposal are required. 59th fact. Giving cheese to a dog may result in diarrhea. Cheese in moderation is safe for the majority of canine companions. The problem stems from the high fat and lactose content, not the cheese itself. Each dog's reaction will vary. A complete ban on cheese for dogs is an overstatement. The 60th fact. It is crucial to avoid retraining left-handed children. Forcing a change in their dominant hand often results in stuttering, increased anxiety, and writing impairments. Left-handedness is not an abnormality, it's a normal variation. The brain functions differently in left-handed individuals, but not less efficiently. The educational system and the environment must accommodate left-handed children, not the other way around. Point number 61. It's a misconception that sleep is prohibited following a stroke. This is inaccurate. Sleep does not aggravate the situation, but rather contributes to recovery. The priority is to seek immediate medical attention and not delay calling emergency services. Conversely, lack of sleep and worry can worsen the effects of a stroke. Number 62. Combining alcoholic beverages with energy drinks results in a deceptive feeling of increased energy. Caffeine effectively hides the symptoms of alcohol intoxication, leading to a lack of awareness regarding impaired coordination. The heart is subjected to excessive strain and blood vessels narrow. This is not an increase in energy, but rather a dangerous overexertion of the body. 63rd fact. Consuming chicken eggs can increase cholesterol, but not for everyone. While egg yolks do contain cholesterol, modern studies show that in healthy people, eggs have a negligible effect on bad cholesterol levels. Sugar and trans fats have a far greater impact. Fact number 64. Weight loss is achieved by reducing food intake. Extremely restrictive diets decrease metabolic rate, resulting in breakdowns and nutritional deficiencies. A more successful strategy involves a gradual calorie reduction, regular eating patterns, and physical activity. Fasting without understanding the underlying physiological processes is counterintuitive. Fact number 65. The absence of sight leads to the development of highly sensitive hearing in blind people. This is not a congenital superpower, but an adaptive response. The brain reallocates its resources. Without vision, focus shifts to other sensory inputs. Hearing acuity itself doesn't increase. Rather, the processing and training of auditory information are altered. 66th point. Should a disaster occur, much of modern technology will fail. Nevertheless, numerous devices will remain operational without internet or cellular service. This includes radios, flashlights, mechanical watches, older model vehicles, and even paper maps, all unaffected by global network failures. Fact number 67. A high price for a cream doesn't guarantee greater effectiveness. The price is frequently determined by marketing expenses, packaging design, and brand image, not the quality of the active ingredients. Numerous budget-friendly creams contain the same active substances as high-end creams. The key factor in effectiveness is the cream's composition, not its price. 68th point. A common belief associates a cat's sneeze with an impending weather change. The truth, however, is that it might be a sign of an allergy, an infection, or simply dust particles in the air. Cats, similar to humans, respond to environmental irritants. The superstition connecting feline sneezing to weather shifts is a charming notion, yet lacks scientific basis. Fact number 69. In flight, the heart is subjected to a higher workload. For individuals without pre-existing heart conditions, this presents no threat. Cabin pressure is maintained at a normal level, and the flight altitude has minimal impact on cardiac function. Risk is limited to those with serious heart pathologies and only during prolonged and stressful flights. 70 facts. The assertion that microwave ovens destroy vitamins is false. Microwave cooking is not more detrimental to vitamins than other cooking methods. On the contrary, the rapid heating without added water preserves more nutrients than boiling. Radio waves only provide rapid internal heating, not impacting nutritional value. 71st fact. Pouring alcohol into the ear to treat otitis media is not a recommended treatment. This action may worsen the pain and irritation, particularly if the eardrum is compromised. Self-treating ear problems is risky. A visit to a doctor is always preferable to self-diagnosis and home remedies. 72nd fact. It is possible for a patient to unexpectedly regain consciousness during a surgical procedure. Under general anesthesia, the likelihood of awareness is a tiny fraction of 1%. Advanced monitoring systems track the depth of anesthesia, making intraoperative awareness a rare occurrence. This myth is perpetuated by movies, not by factual data. Number 73. Fact. Lack of perspiration during an illness is unfavorable.
Perspiration serves as a thermoregulatory function, not a recovery marker. High fever can be present without sweating. This is not always a cause for concern. Overall health status and treatment response are the key indicators, not the presence or absence of sweat. 74th fact. Honey undergoes changes when heated. Significant temperature increases lead to the breakdown of certain enzymes, impacting its flavor. Nevertheless, it doesn't become toxic. The misconception about heated honey's toxicity stems from a misinterpretation of chemical processes. Heating honey doesn't improve its medicinal properties, and it doesn't transform into a poison. 75th fact. A slender physique does not automatically equate to good health. Physical appearance is not indicative of blood sugar levels, blood pressure, or physical strength. The term skinny fat describes low weight combined with unfavorable metabolic indicators. Health is assessed by medical test results, physical activity levels, sleep quality and duration, not clothing size. Fact number 76. There is no scientific support for the assertion that sugar induces hyperactivity in adults. A temporary increase in energy levels may occur after consuming sugar, but this effect is transient and gives way to lethargy. Many factors influence mood and behavior, including sleep quality, stress levels, and hormonal balance, rather than just the consumption of sweets. 77th fact. The persistent clicking of fingers is sometimes associated with arthritis. This clicking sound is produced by the escape of gas from the joint fluid. Scientific studies, however, have not found a connection between this habit and joint inflammation. The only potential negative consequence is the annoyance of others, not cartilage destruction. 78th fact. A human body in the vacuum of space won't explode immediately. Nevertheless, the situation will be dire. Lacking a spacesuit, a person will become unconscious within 10 to 15 seconds because of oxygen deprivation. Subsequently, tissue edema will occur. The body, however, will not burst. This effect is significantly overstated in movies. 79th fact. The dependence on coffee is comparable to that of drugs. Caffeine can cause addiction, although it's a mild form of addiction. Ceasing coffee consumption may lead to irritability, drowsiness, and headaches, but these symptoms subside within a few days. There are no serious consequences, such as withdrawal, intense cravings, or life-ruining effects. 81st fact. A common belief is that pimples are caused by unclean hands. Although dirty hands can introduce bacteria to the skin, this is not the root cause. Hormonal imbalances, pore blockage, and inflammation are the primary factors in acne development. Excessive facial washing and scrubbing can exacerbate the problem. Maintaining good hygiene is crucial, but it is not a guaranteed solution for acne. 81st fact. When a person is silent, it doesn't necessarily imply they are concealing something. Silence might stem from tiredness, worry, shyness, or merely a lack of appropriate words. Individuals display emotions differently. Viewing silence as guilt is an assumption, not a general principle. 82nd fact. The crisp sound of snow crunching underfoot is an indicator of air purity. The loudness of the crunch is determined by temperature. In freezing temperatures, snowflakes are tightly packed and fracture easily. This is a physical process, not an ecological one. Consequently, the sound of crunching snow doesn't directly correlate with air quality. One may walk on crisp snow and inhale polluted air, or conversely, breathe clean air in quiet envisions without any crunching sound. 83rd fact. A common misconception is that spiders often enter the mouths of sleeping individuals. This myth has circulated for many years, yet it's refuted by biologists. Spiders actively avoid areas with vibrations, noise, breathing, and human scent. In typical circumstances, the likelihood of such an occurrence is extremely low, practically non-existent. 84th fact. A ringing or clicking sound in the ear is often associated with an earwax buildup. But this is not the only explanation.
Sounds in the ear can result from inflammation, increased pressure, or vascular problems, or issues with the temporomandibular joint. Earwax impaction is one potential cause, but by no means the only one. A proper diagnosis requires a visit to a doctor, not self-treatment with cotton swabs. 85th fact. Neck pain is frequently misattributed to osteochondrosis. However, it's more commonly a muscle spasm resulting from rapid chilling. Osteochondrosis is a chronic condition affecting the intervertebral discs, a process that takes considerable time to develop. The misconception endures because of overlapping symptoms. 86th fact. It is a false belief that giving birth necessarily results in tooth loss. Pregnancy can affect gum health negatively because of hormonal fluctuations and possible calcium shortage. However, pregnancy itself doesn't destroy tooth structure. Maintaining good oral hygiene, taking vitamins, and visiting a dentist regularly solve the problem, irrespective of the number of deliveries. 87th fact. Prolonged storage of a mobile phone in a pocket is believed to potentially cause infertility. Nevertheless, a direct correlation between radiofrequency radiation and reduced fertility remains unproven. Overheating and tight clothing are more probable causes. The primary risk is overheating, not the phone signal. Studies are underway, but there is no reason for alarm. Fact number 88. A child's frequent fantasizing doesn't indicate an inability to differentiate between reality and fiction. A vivid imagination is a normal stage of cognitive development, not a sign of any problem. Playing, inventing stories, and the ability to tell them are fundamental to the development of abstract thinking, not a reason for worry. 89th fact. It is a widespread belief that prolonged use of eyeglasses leads to deterioration of vision. This belief is false. Eyeglasses do not cause the eye muscles to weaken or become less active. They simply correct refractive errors, providing clear sight. Factors such as heredity, age, and the amount of visual work contribute to vision problems, not the use of spectacles. Fact number 90. Vitamins are generally best consumed in the morning. The optimal time, however, is dependent on the vitamin type. Fat-soluble vitamins are best taken post-meal, whereas water-soluble vitamins may be taken at any convenient time. Note that certain vitamins, like B6 and magnesium, are often recommended for nighttime ingestion to minimize sleep disruption. A standardized vitamin intake schedule is not applicable. The 91st fact. People possessing dark eyes often exhibit superior night vision. While iris pigmentation does affect light sensitivity, this variation is negligible. In practice, the quality of night vision is primarily influenced by overall visual health, age, and retinal condition, not eye color. 92nd fact. Even if food dropped on the ground is subsequently boiled, this does not guarantee its safety for consumption. Certain toxins and bacterial spores survive boiling temperatures. Molds and botulinum toxin pose a significant risk. The initial purity of the food is more crucial than any subsequent processing. Boiling is not a foolproof method of decontamination. Fact 93. A common belief is that smoking without coughing is less harmful. However, the damage is caused not only by the smoke, but also by its constituents: tar, carbon monoxide, and cancer-causing agents. The lack of a cough doesn't mean there's no damage. Coughing is a protective reflex. Silent smoking is equally harmful to smoking accompanied by coughing. 94th fact. Taking activated charcoal after drinking alcohol will not prevent a hangover. While activated charcoal is helpful in treating poisonings, it does not counteract ethanol. It doesn't remove alcohol from the bloodstream and offers no protection to the liver. Any benefit is minimal and delayed unless the charcoal is taken immediately. Fact number 95. Are wisdom teeth always removed? No, not always. If the tooth grows without complications, doesn't affect neighboring teeth, and doesn't lead to inflammation, it can be kept. Surgical removal involves risks. The dentist makes the decision based on an X-ray image, not the patient's age.
96th fact. The common belief is that a nosebleed indicates high blood pressure. While elevated blood pressure can indeed cause blood vessel damage in the nose, resulting in bleeding, the majority of nosebleeds stem from dry air, trauma, or naturally fragile capillaries. A nosebleed isn't automatically a medical emergency.
Fact number 97. The aging process involves a gradual decline in the body's functions. However, many bodily functions can be maintained or even enhanced with age. These include endurance, cognitive abilities, and emotional intelligence. Lifestyle has a greater impact on biological age than chronological age.
Fact number 98. The claim that playing music to plants promotes faster growth requires further investigation. Research has not yielded definitive results. While sound influences the microclimate and generates vibrations, a direct correlation between music and photosynthesis remains unproven. Adequate lighting, proper watering, and suitable soil are the primary determinants of plant growth, not musical accompaniment. Fact number 99. A single bout of illness within a season doesn't provide complete protection against future infections. While some viruses confer immunity, many undergo mutations, allowing for reinfection. This is particularly relevant for influenza and acute respiratory viral infections, ARVs. Seasonal immunity is not permanent or absolute. Immunity is not everlasting and not all-encompassing. The 100th fact. The absence of appetite in the morning often indicates an unproductive day. Morning hunger is a question of habit, not a forecast. Breakfast is an obligatory ritual for some, while for others it represents an unnecessary load. Energy depends on sleep schedule, stress levels, and daily routine, not on a simple sandwich.